business advisor and supply chain expert, and welcome to my podcast, The Morning Mood. And we are here with Kerry Morris, and we are wrapping up our architect series about building private label at Amazon. Kerry has brought us through what was going on, early approval and investment in private label, how she has scaled this business. And for our wrap up episode, Kerry is going to talk to us about how what she built lives on in Amazon and a lot of other places today. Kerry, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, Kim. So it was a just extraordinary journey, and you can't help but have a lot of pride and passion. It's like a child. Like,
Yeah.
my attachment to Pinzon and Strathwood in particular was like a lot of blood and sweat and a lot of joy and love. So I was very excited to be able to end this conversation with the legacy of private label at Amazon and where it is today. You know,
Yeah.
by the time I wrapped up my tenure with the company, we had expanded into all home, housewares, outdoor categories, as I'd shared with you. Our
Yeah.
company had actually brought on a couple additional teams to begin to explore electronics and tools and clothing
Yeah.
consumables and start to kind of expand out. And, you flash forward today and, not only are there still uh, original architectural foundations in place, but the business was just extraordinary. Like it exploded overnight. In 2019, which I think is kind of just a capsule of when you look at the huge change that Amazon took directionally in this space. Um, when I left in 2010, we had probably about 5,000 SKUs.
Yeah.
In 2019, I wrote it down because I had to double check it. 158,000 private label SKUs were on their site. On their
Holy
site.
crap. Holy
All
shit.
every category, everything, everything.
Holy shit.
And
Wow.
like there was no stone not turned in that assortment build out. And, the business just exploded in that process. I will say that a couple of my beloved brands were retired and put out to pasture
Sure.
along the way. Strathwood found its kind of last hurrah and moved on. The Tom Douglas partnership, you
It
know,
did.
sunset as
Faded.
well. But Pinson held its own for a very,
I was
very
gonna say,
long
Amazon
time.
lived on for a while.
Yeah, for a very long
Yeah.
time. And it actually made it to the 2019 timeframe, although they started to introduce a broader good, better, best assortment and really brought
Yes.
Amazon Basic, which was
Yeah.
started in electronics and kind of moved into home. It started to
Yeah.
take that place and kind of transition the customer into that space, which is very normal for private
Yeah.
labels to morph over time. Um,
Yeah.
they there is again, and I'm gonna say for me, this is just an observer looking from the outside in. I was not a part of these decisions, but in 2023, they did make the decision to scale back their assortment immensely.
Yes.
And I would say again, having no inside insight into exactly why, but from an observer looking on the outside, private label is about being part of an ecosystem. So unless you choose to be a brand house like a Nike, coming out like a store that is 100% athletic, um, you need to have a balance of recognizable national brands
Yes.
and private label. And I
Yeah.
feel like hitting 158,000 SKUs or ASINs, as they would call them at Amazon,
Yes.
in the assortment. While there's millions of products in Amazon's assortment, it does start to feel like, is the ecosystem still there? Is it balanced? And
Yeah.
they've been making some dramatic adjustments and reducing their assortments tremendously.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point that you bring up because Nordstrom is another company that bumped up against this,
Yeah.
where Nordstrom really laid in. Now, I don't know the specifics on when they've leaned in and leaned out, but I know that they very much leaned into private label for a while, and it started to dilute them,
Yeah.
and consumers were frustrated. They
Yeah.
were like, "I don't want to come buy your private label stuff."
Right.
And Nordstrom did it in a way that it wasn't necessarily 100% transparent
Right.
that they had all these private labels. There was like Nordstrom Signature, which is obviously very transparent,
Yeah.
but there were names of things that people were starting to catch on and be like, this is just Nordstrom's brand. Like this
Yeah.
isn't you just named it something else. And it started to dilute the brand a little bit. So
Yeah.
you touch on something that's very interesting in that, people aren't shopping on Amazon to buy Amazon products. They're here to get the best product
Right. At the right price to
at the
solve
right
the
price.
problem that they have.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
problem could be fun too, like a birthday gift or a Father's Day,
Yes.
right? It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
scrub my toilet, right? But
Yeah.
it's like they're there for that. And if your private label product fills the need of that consumer, then you're winning. Whereas if you're
Right.
just flooding the assortment in there and
Yes.
flooding that space, it's really interesting. I,
You're
I will
duplicating that. Like, I think the baby wipes were the thing where Amazon got into the baby wipes, right? They crossed over into and I was like, "Whew, that's a
yeah,
pretty saturated market already." Like, what
yeah,
are you gonna bring to the table in baby wipes
yeah,
that Dollar General isn't doing, that Walmart isn't
yeah,
doing, that all of these low price margin players that already have their own private labels,
right.
how are they gonna bring it? And that's where I was like, maybe we've gone a step too far. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's thinking, and particularly with baby wipes, they are like the number one loss leader in retail. Like they're one that can be disruptive and you give it away.
Yeah.
Even at full price, you're not making any
Yeah.
margin on it.
Yeah.
Um, and so again, like it brings the question, did they really need to go into that space? They have so many other ways they could have driven a loss leader in the space without actually owning the inventory. Like that's the other piece of this is you're
That's the
owning
other
the
piece of this too.
end-to-end
Yeah.
manufacturing of this.
Yeah.
So you take an inventory position, which is not something that Amazon, needs or has to do. So it's
Yeah, and traditionally, it's not something Amazon has always made big inventory positions.
yeah.
That has always been part of the or part of the model was like just in time, lean, not a lot of
Yep.
deep storage. That's always been their model. So yeah, you bring up an interesting point. Like they start to take bigger positions in this inventory product. They
Yeah.
also take on additional liability, which I
Yep.
think is something that is real. And
Yes.
maybe we can talk about that a little bit because when you start doing private label and you're producing your own product, all the child safety, all the
Yeah.
FDA, choking hazards, FCC, all of it, like curtains
Yeah.
falling off the wall, all that shit is on you.
Yeah, no, it's so, so true. And it goes back to that assortment planning model. So, the most joyous product and probably the easiest product to source in the world is a toy. And yet
Oh yeah,
it is the most dangerous product,
highly regulated.
highly,
Yes.
highly regulated, as it should be. And so
Yeah.
you don't see a lot of private label
Right.
toys. I'd
Yeah.
also say that anything to do with an infant, whether it's a crib or a high chair or a car seat, like, you know, there's this balance of trust that a customer might have with a brand, but also, there's a lot of consumer report support around national brands or global brands in those spaces that
Yeah.
do you need to take on the risk and the liability? Like, is
Yeah.
it the right space for you to be in? Whereas,
Yeah.
a kitchen towel or a bath sheet, why not? Like, yes, there's
Right.
still going to be quality concerns around dyes, bleeding, or products shrinking in the wash if you don't have the right care instructions, breakage or damage, but it's very, very different. And so there's some hot spot categories. And I remember early on, there was a lot of pressure for me to do consumables and do, you know, health products. And
I remember
again,
this.
that is one where you partner with national brands to build a private label assortments. When you look at what, I believe Target was probably one of the first, as well as Walmart, to really
Mhm.
get into those categories. And they partnered with, you know,
Oh, yeah.
companies that were making Tylenol and Advil. That's the only way you're
Yes.
going to be in that space.
That's it, and same thing with a lot of, like, the home cleaning products with
Yes.
chemicals. The only way you can play in that space is to put your label on somebody else's product or have them manufacture it for you to their
Yes.
specs.
Yeah.
So how is this has continued to live on at Amazon. It went to what was the big number again? I It was so big.
158,000 SKUs.
158,000 SKUs. And so how do you see so not only does Amazon do all of this private label on this e-commerce, this has become table stakes across
Yeah.
e-commerce and retail.
Yes.
Everybody does this now.
Every
Luxury
yes.
retailers, luxury e-commerce, all the way down to the basics. Everybody is doing their private label now.
Yeah, it's to the extent where there is this real balance, this push-pull balance that I feel as a consumer, because you've got department stores that have their private label. I mean, Macy's had Martha Stewart very, very
Yeah.
early on.
Yes.
You've got big boxes, you've got, category killer spaces like Best Buy, you've got
Yes.
drugstores, you even got grocery store. I mean,
Yes.
I have Kroger's in my backyard, and they have 7 different private labels. Um, Target has 60 private labels.
Yeah.
Walmart has 300 private labels. And the question is, do you even know as a consumer that that is
That
a
it's
private
private
label?
label.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking about, like, Nordstrom. I don't know how many private labels Nordstrom has, but at the time when I was having this conversation, there was at least 5. And they didn't have Nordstrom name in them. That's not
right.
counting the ones that were like, Nordstrom signature.
Yeah,
So, there were at least 5 and vendors didn't know that they were shopping a private label unless they researched it, but a lot of them could feel it in the quality. And
right.
I think that's something that we should talk about too, is
Yeah,
that when you started private label, your original vision for the private label at Amazon was about value and selection, solving a problem.
right.
It was never a price play.
Never.
And then as it started to evolve, right, it more and more became a price play with Amazon Basics and lower tier products and more accessible products. So let's talk about that because that is almost the death spiral of private label.
Yeah, it is in the sense that if you build a disciplined assortment of good, better, best, and you create, the dynamics and fill those customer needs at all 3 of those levels successfully, then
Mhm.
you've got a trifecta, right? I mean, you're able to
Right.
hit someone when they need a deal, meet their core everyday consumption, and delight them with something really unique and high quality. And that's the perfect model that I sure we
Yeah.
all wish we could create every time. Consumers, you cannot influence them to behave that way. You've got to bring the right product to create that reason for them to behave that way. And I
Right.
do find that when a consumer starts to see and over index at an opening price point, very kind of trip down basic product, it starts to lose the quality and the function that you might expect from a product. And, I've always been someone who said, if you're going to lead with price, make sure that when the consumer opens the package, they're unexpectedly delighted with the quality of the
Delighted.
product.
You're wowed. Like, "Oh my god, I can't
Yeah,
believe I paid 5
not
bucks for
what
this."
I
Yeah.
expected, right? Not a, oh
Yes.
yeah, this is exactly what I paid
Yeah, that's
for.
5
Not
bucks.
what I
I'm
paid
not
for, right?
Yeah, I'm not upset I lost the money. Like, you don't want that reaction, and a
Right,
lot of times that's what happens.
right.
And you're touching on something that's really interesting that's come up in other episodes or actually just in my experience in episodes, in that, this is a little bit of what Nordstrom started to run into as well with, like, the Halogen brand. So
Yeah,
that's their lower tier, tween brand, it's their,
yeah,
young buyer and, the famous $50 cashmere sweater. But let me tell you something, that cashmere sweater was trash. And after 2 seasons, they didn't look great. And so
right.
it starts to cross over to this thing like, but I'm here at Nordstrom because I'm here to buy quality.
Quality, right? right?
I'll spend $100 and get a sweater that'll last me 7
Yes.
seasons.
Yes.
Right.
It's so, so true. And
Yeah.
it's the discipline of early early fast rings through the register, starting to
Yes.
dictate the assortment versus that loyalty, that
That
halo long
long-term
run plan, right?
loyalty.
Like it and
Yeah.
there's always these trade-offs. Like there's always
Yeah.
this balance. But I can't help but go back and admire, always admire the discipline of Kirkland's signature from coffee.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you know, I shared in episode 1 with you, it was a
Yeah.
need state to get
Yep.
product on the shelf, but they never once stepped away from their value proposition to their customer, which is incredible
Never.
value and the best
This
quality out there.
this is absolutely, I agree with you on that. Have been a Costco customer for many years. Just don't need all that stuff now. I grew out of it, as many people
Yeah,
do. Um, but yes, but I will agree with you. Like Kirkland never once dropped their values,
never dilute.
and a little
Yeah,
never diluted anything, not even their chocolate. It was still amazing, and you've never had any complaints about it. And there's a little bit also of a difference between a bridge brand,
Mhm.
which is a little bit why companies try, right? They try to make a bridge brand,
Mhm.
which is a lower price point.
Yeah,
And with the concept, like halogen is a great example of that, like a young buyer, young consumer, they can't really afford the $150 sweater. We'll try to bridge them in
yeah,
and they'll grow with us. But the key with that is the quality.
right.
Because if you're still not holding that value, which is quality, customer loyalty, things like that, it's a price play. And back to your original point,
Yeah,
that's transactional.
yeah. And then they're not your customer of the future.
No,
Right? I mean, because unfortunately, you've introduced them to an inferior product that as they do get to the point where they can afford that $150 sweater, they're not going to think of you first. So it's a
right?
very short-sighted customer
Yeah.
play in
Yes.
that space. Um,
The other thing I see happening in private label, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is that a private label will come to market. It's hot, it's high quality, it's great price point, it is on point, and is innovative. And 24 months later, it's shit.
yeah,
What is
greed,
that?
greed,
Ah,
greed,
there we go. Greed. Okay.
greed. I will have
It
it
almost
is
became about
absolutely
margin.
greed, right?
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
start to shave off the little extra embellishments to just really drive that margin to that next level.
Quality, the stitch count.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that because I love new brands, again, I just want to reiterate, I'm a shopaholic. And I love trying out new brands, especially when a legacy brand or an existing brand will introduce a new brand. And it's something that I see very often. Like the first offering is like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then it just slowly kind of trickles down. Price stays the same,
Yeah.
but everything else goes down.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a slippery slope because once you've set that, expectation with the customer, that they're not necessarily going to come back easily. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
something that they'll just automatically forgive you or come back into. Um,
you've set the tone for them now, and
yeah.
so, yeah, that's
I
what
think
they expect
another
from you.
thing that's very slippery slope for private label is high low. And in the sense of pricing being high and low is not advantageous for private label. You know,
Tell us more
na-
about that. What does that
national,
mean, Highland?
well, national retailers, I'll definitely say this was the playbook for department stores, but they
Oh,
always set the floor with a national product at the highest price they can command.
yes.
And then over
Yes.
time, they're dropping lower, lower, lower. And then you see the product go out and you train the customer for that, right? They
Yes,
see
you
the
do.
seasonal set,
Yep,
someone comes in early adopter and wants the chartreuse color. So they grab it.
yep,
The person that comes in at the bottom might be getting brown. They're not going to get a fun
but
fashion,
they don't care.
but they
Yeah.
care, right? That's the high low of it.
Yes.
Playing that game with private label, it
Very dangerous.
very dangerous, right?
Very
Like you
dangerous.
need to be steady and you need to like
Yes.
hold an expectation. You need to hold the customer's attention that they don't need to be waiting for something to happen to that price point. And again, don't
Yeah.
lead with price, but as I start to see people do high low,
On private
on private
label.
label.
Yeah. Yeah. And so interesting thing, just so to share with my fellow shopaholics. In like luxury fashion and luxury retail, there's 4 sales cycles, okay? So seasonals. So that means there's about an 8-week full price cycle for a product to be sold at full price before it has to get liquidated before the new stuff comes in.
Yeah.
So if you are out there and you love to shop and you see that new thing, girl, just hold on for 7 weeks. That's all you have to do.
Yes.
Just hold on for
Yes.
7 weeks and it will get marked down. And if you hold on for 9 weeks, you'll probably get it at 50% off.
Yes. Yes. Now you
Yes.
do have to remember that you might have to give up a favorite color, or
Yes.
a size range
A
might be slightly
size
off, but
off.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I also will say, being a retail shopaholic also, I'm also a flipper, which, by the way, means
Oh,
you
yeah.
walk into stores and flip everything to see where it's made. Drives
Oh,
my
yeah.
husband nuts.
I'm a big flipper too. Yeah.
Yeah, big flipper is, there are certain brands that have a propensity to carry certain sizes in larger volumes.
Yes.
So, if you can find a brand you love and they tend to carry your size in a larger assortment value, they're the ones you want to watch, in week
Mhm.
9, because they more than
Yeah.
likely have your product. So,
Yeah, to make sure that they got it. Yeah, good point. You may be giving up that hot pink color or whatever it is that you just couldn't live without. But
yeah.
if you hold on, and for me personally, I'll never forget when I was young, I call my itty bitty when I was coming up. Casual Corner was the bomb.
Yes.
And
Love
oh my
Casual
God.
Corner.
Oh my God. A matchy twin set and
Oh,
some double knit polyester suit pants and a scarf. Do you
oh,
remember I had the matching scarves? Oh my
yes.
God. I had it
Oh my
all.
gosh. I love it.
So they came out with this butter yellow suit set, and as you know, as Casual Corner, if you all remember back then, they came out with a whole colorway, like the
Of
shirt, the
course.
pants, like
Yes.
it was interchangeable. You could survive like 2.5 weeks on a business trip with like 5 pieces of clothes.
Yes.
That was the Casual
It's
Corner thing.
brilliant.
They came out with this butter yellow suit that obviously is not even a good color on me, but I was dying for it, and I stalked that suit every week for 6 weeks.
Waiting
I
for
went
the
into
price
that
to
store
move. Yes.
waiting for them to mark it down 25%. I did every week I went to the store. Nope, not yet.
Wow.
And I finally
Wow.
did buy it. It looked horrible on me. Not my color, but
Oh, but you just had to have it. It
I
was the
had to
thing.
have butter
You just had to
yellow.
have it. Well,
Yep. Well,
I think the
yep.
only other thing that I would layer into a very prominent result of the last 10 years in private label is, and I've mentioned Martha Stewart a few times because she was the queen of the first
Oh,
of
love her.
celebrity exclusive branding, starting with
Yeah.
Sears and then moving on to Macy's and now everywhere. But
Yeah.
there's a huge appetite for celebrity private label out there, and every single retailer has it. I mean, I remember just earth shaking disruption when Target introduced Michael Graves' first private label collection. Just
Teapot.
unbelievable. And
The
they
Michael
then went
Graves
on.
teapot, I had the Michael Graves, clothesline, I had the
Oh,
Michael Graves
every
clothing clips,
yes,
everything.
everything. And then it starts to get really interestingly complex because Target said, I mean, I think they're one of the most brilliant private label houses out there.
Mhm,
They went on to actually begin to buy brand names that were
mhm.
no longer of interest to the brand, whether it was
Yep.
Chapter 11 or liquidation. And their first one that they bought was Smith and Hawkins, which was a
Yes.
beloved outdoor brand of mine.
Yes.
You still every once in a while will see. They acquired Real Simple's private label name and
Yeah.
introduced housewares with it.
Yeah.
So there's just like this super interesting play out there. And I had the privilege of talking to a venture capitalist company a few years ago, and they have a trifecta portfolio that I'm like, oh my goodness, because they acquired Martha Stewart's branding, Sir Taub's branding when they went Chapter 11,
Yep.
and Emerald, who might not be bamming like the way he used to,
Well,
but
you used to, but that name still carries.
yeah, so they have all 3 of those brands in their portfolio. So there's just this huge, I mean, even Paris Hilton had her moment. Like, celebrities will forever drive, that play, and they come in so many different ways. I mean, now, if you can get Snoop and Martha together, you've got a private label, gold mine going on.
Been buying lighters nonstop
Yeah. Yeah, so
from
true.
Vic.
And
Ever
and I
since then,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think the only other thing that I was just in preparation to talk to you and just getting excited about where has my legacy gone to. I think the one thing that just reminded me the power of e-commerce. So I mentioned earlier that Strathwood, is no longer an assortment on Amazon. I did find, though, quite a bit of Strathwood on eBay. So
oh,
somebody's
nice.
gone in and bought inventory and you can still actively buy the product. I went, "Oh my gosh,
It
this
lives
is nice."
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one was really brilliant. I'm like, "For you, Wayfair." So Wayfair is buying and redirecting the word Strathwood to their outdoor garden store. They don't have Strathwood product, but they're buying the keyword and they're redirecting. So any loyal customer, right? So they're pulling the legacy of the consumer. Amazon doesn't want it anymore. That's fine. We know there's customers
We'll
still
take it.
loyal. Yeah.
There's something so still valuable there
Yeah.
that they're willing to invest in converting that business.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Amazing, right? So clever.
Totally amazing.
Yeah.
Carrie, thank you so much for telling us your story about private label at Amazon. An incredibly inspiring story. I just I didn't even know all of it. I'm kind of blown away now that I know more about it. It lives on, and what Carrie built at Amazon all those years ago has influenced everything that Amazon has done since then and continues to do so.
Oh,
Thank you for
thank
sharing
you,
your
Kim,
story.
so much. Such an amazing opportunity. And if you haven't flipped something recently, flip it and see where it's from. You'll just be just so surprised at where we
You will.
source globally around the world. It's amazing. So,
We do. Thank you very much. And to my audience, thank you for being here. I hope you learned something and come back. We got more. Bye.
bye.